You wake up, the alarm goes off, and before you even open your eyes, something quietly activates inside you. Not energy, not excitement, a system, a finely tuned, deeply practiced system that decides, in a fraction of a second, how you will present yourself to the world today. What version of you is safe to show? What version of you must stay hidden? And by the time you walk out that door, you are already wearing it. The mask, not a metaphor, not a poetic abstraction, a real, lived, daily construction, one that most people spend their entire lives maintaining without ever once stopping to ask why it exists in the first place. You say you are fine when you are not. You laugh at the right moments. You nod along in conversations that quietly drain you. You tell people what they want to hear because somewhere, deep in your emotional architecture, you learned that showing them the truth was too costly a risk. And here is what no one ever tells you. The mask is not weakness. The mask was once your greatest act of intelligence. Think about the last time someone asked you how you were doing. A colleague, a friend, a family member at dinner. And without hesitation, without even a breath of consideration, you said it. I am good. I am fine. Everything is great. Even when it was not. Even when something inside you was heavy, confused, tired in a way that sleep could not fix. You did not lie because you are dishonest. You lied because somewhere in the architecture of your emotional world, honesty once felt like a door with nothing safe on the other side. This is not a character flaw. This is a survival strategy. And it began much earlier than you think. Stage 1, where the mask was born. Go back. Not to last year. Not to your last difficult relationship or your last professional failure. Go back further. You were a child once. And as a child, you were a scientist, the most sophisticated kind. You ran experiments on your environment every single day. Not in a lab, in a living room, at a dinner table, in a classroom where the wrong answer meant laughter and the right answer meant nothing. You tested the world, and the world gave you feedback. And one day, maybe gradually, maybe in a single moment that lodged itself into your nervous system like a splinter, you discovered something. Certain emotions got a reaction, and not always the reaction you needed. Maybe when you cried, the room became uncomfortable, and people changed the subject. Maybe when you were angry, the energy in the house shifted in ways that felt dangerous. Maybe when you were honest about being scared, someone told you to toughen up, to stop being so sensitive, to not make everything such a big deal. So your young, incredibly adaptive brain did what it was built to do. It adjusted. It built a bridge between your inner world and the outer world, and that bridge had a filter. What passes through? What stays in? What is safe to express? What must be buried so deep that even you forget it is there? Carl Jung called this the persona. Not the person you are, but the person you learned it was acceptable to be. A mask so perfectly constructed, so meticulously maintained, that over time, you stopped noticing you were wearing it at all. And here is the devastating part. The mask worked. It kept you safe. It earned you approval. It smoothed over the rough edges of your emotional reality and helped you move through a world that, frankly, was not always equipped to handle the full weight of who you actually were. So why, then, does carrying it feel so exhausting? Stage 2. The architecture of the performance. There is a specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with how many hours you slept. You know this tired. It sits behind your eyes. It lives in your chest. It is the tiredness of spending an entire day performing a version of yourself that does not quite fit, like wearing shoes that are almost your size, but not quite, for 8 hours straight. Psychologists call this emotional labor, the invisible work of managing and suppressing your actual feelings to meet the expectations of the social environment around you. But that term, clinical as it is, does not fully capture what this costs you. Because the mask is not just something you put on in public. Over time, it follows you home. You are alone in your apartment, no one watching, no one needing anything from you, and still, the system runs. Still, the internal monitor asks, is this okay to feel? Is this okay to want? Is this version of me acceptable even to myself? This is what happens when the mask is worn long enough. It does not stay on the surface. It begins to merge with the skin. And then something terrifying happens. You forget what was underneath. You start to lose track of your own emotional truth. Not because it disappeared, it never disappears, but because you have been muting it for so long, suppressing its signal, translating it into something more palatable before it even reaches the surface, that accessing it starts to feel like digging through concrete. Nietzsche wrote about the danger of living entirely in the social role, of becoming so identified with the mask that the authentic self underneath begins to suffocate. He called it a kind of slow death, not dramatic, not sudden, but quiet, gradual, a fading. And you may have felt this fading in the moments when someone asks what you want and you genuinely do not know, in the moments when you are surrounded by people who care about you and still feel profoundly, mysteriously alone, in the moments when you catch your own reflection and feel, for just a second, like you are looking at a stranger. That is not a crisis of identity. That is the cost of the mask. Stage 3. The roles you learn to play here is where it gets precise. Because the mask is not one size fits all. You have not one mask, but several. A whole wardrobe of them, each tailored for a different relationship, a different environment, a different set of expectations. There is the mask you wear at work, capable, composed, unshakable. The one that smiles through frustration, that volunteers when you are already stretched thin, that never lets anyone see the doubt underneath the competence. There is the mask you wear with your family, the role you inherited before you were old enough to audition for it. The peacemaker, the responsible one, the funny one, the one who does not need anything, because someone else in the room always seems to need more. There is the mask you wear in friendships, agreeable, supportive, endlessly available, the one that laughs off the comments that sting, the one that says, no worries, when there are, in fact, quite a few worries. And then, perhaps the most painful one, the mask you wear in romantic relationships, the one that minimizes your needs because you are terrified that the full volume of what you actually feel might overwhelm the person standing in front of you, the one that says, I'm not that bothered, when you are. The one that performs security and certainty, because vulnerability once meant rejection, and your emotional memory has not forgotten that. Each of these masks was designed with purpose. Each one was an adaptation, a solution to a problem your environment once presented. But here is the paradox that lives at the center of all of it. The mask that was built to protect connection, the very thing that prevents it. Because when someone loves the mask, you know it. You feel it. And instead of warmth, you feel a quiet, hollow ache. Because they are loving something that is not entirely you. And you are left alone with the thought, the one you may never say out loud. If they knew the real version, would they still stay? That question is not paranoia. That question is the cost of the mask making itself known. Have you ever faked a smile at a party when you were feeling down? Or maybe put on a brave face before a big presentation, even though you were shaking inside? We all pretend. It's a fundamental part of being human. But have you ever stopped to think about what is actually happening inside your body and brain when you do? This isn't just about social games. It's a deep dive into our own biology. Today, we're exploring the fascinating physiology of pretending. Let's start with the basics. When you decide to pretend, say, to be happy, your brain's prefrontal cortex kicks into gear. This is your command center, the CEO of your brain, responsible for executive functions like decision-making and social behavior. It sends a signal to your motor cortex, saying, okay, activate the happy face muscles, so you lift the corners of your mouth and crinkle your eyes. This is a top-down process. Your conscious mind is telling your body how to act. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your body doesn't just passively follow orders. It talks back to your brain. This concept is called the facial feedback hypothesis. The simple act of arranging your facial muscles into a smile can actually influence your emotional state. When you smile, the muscle activity sends signals back to your brain, which can trigger the release of mood-boosting neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. So, in a way, faking it can literally help you make it. It's like a biological feedback loop. You pretend to be happy. Your muscles tell your brain you're smiling, and your brain responds by making you feel a little bit happier. It's not a magic cure for sadness, but it can genuinely nudge your mood in a positive direction. Now, look at the other side of the coin, pretending under pressure. Imagine you're in a high-stakes job interview. You want to appear calm and confident, but inside, your heart is pounding. This is your sympathetic nervous system, your body's fight or flight response, going into overdrive. It's pumping your body full of adrenaline and cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, and your palms might get sweaty. Your job in this moment is to pretend none of that is happening. Again, your prefrontal cortex is working hard to override these primal signals. It's trying to regulate your emotional response, a process known as emotional suppression. You consciously tell yourself to slow your breathing, maintain eye contact, and keep your voice steady. This is a massive cognitive effort. Your brain is essentially in a tug-of-war with your body. Your primal brain is screaming, danger, while your rational brain is calmly saying, everything is fine. Just answer the question about your 5-year plan. This constant suppression takes a toll. Studies using fMRI scans show that when people suppress their emotions, their amygdala, the brain's fear center, is still highly active. However, the prefrontal cortex is also working overtime to dampen that signal. This mental exertion can be exhausting. It consumes cognitive resources, which is why after a long day of keeping it together, you might feel mentally drained, even if you haven't done much physically. You've essentially been running a marathon inside your own head. Chronic pretending, like constantly masking your true feelings at a job you dislike or in a difficult relationship, can have long-term health consequences. Continuously activating your stress response and suppressing your true emotions can lead to what is known as allostatic load. This is the wear and tear on your body that accumulates as you are exposed to repeated or chronic stress. It can contribute to a weakened immune system, high blood pressure, and an increased risk of burnout and mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Your body is trying to tell you something is wrong, and by constantly pretending everything is okay, you're essentially ignoring its warning signals. It's like driving your car with the check engine light on, hoping it will just turn itself off. But pretending isn't all bad. In fact, it can be a powerful tool for growth and learning. Think about how children learn. They pretend to be doctors, firefighters, or teachers. This type of imaginative play is crucial for development. When a child pretends, they are essentially practicing social roles and problem solving in a safe environment. Their brains are creating new neural pathways, strengthening their understanding of the world and their place in it. This principle also applies to adults. Psychologists sometimes use a technique called acting as if. If you want to be more confident, you act as if you already are. You stand taller, speak more clearly, and make bold decisions. This isn't about being fake. It's about embodying the qualities you want to develop. By repeatedly performing these actions, you are training your brain and body. Your brain begins to associate these behaviors with your identity. Over time, the pretense fades, and the confidence becomes genuine. You're not just faking it, you're building a new reality for yourself, one neural pathway at a time. This is the physiological basis of personal transformation. Another fascinating area is mirror neurons. These are brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we see someone else perform that same action. They are the foundation of empathy and our ability to understand others. When you pretend to feel an emotion, say empathy for a friend who is upset, your mirror neuron system can help you genuinely simulate that feeling. You might unconsciously mimic their sad expression or slump your posture. This physical mirroring helps your brain understand and share their emotional state, turning a pretended emotion into a genuine connection. It shows how our ability to pretend is deeply linked to our ability to socialize and bond with others. So, what's the key takeaway here? Pretending is a complex and powerful physiological process. It can be a useful social tool, a way to influence our own emotions, and a mechanism for personal growth. The fake it till you make it strategy has real biological merit, engaging a feedback loop between your body and brain. However, it's also a double-edged sword. Chronic emotional suppression is a significant stressor that can deplete your mental energy and negatively impact your long-term health. The secret is balance and self-awareness. It is about knowing when pretending serves you, like building confidence or navigating a social situation, and when it is a sign that you need to address an underlying issue. Your body is an incredibly intelligent system. Learning to listen to its signals, even when you're pretending, is one of the most important skills you can develop. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the physiology of pretending. If you found this interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the amazing world of our own biology. Let me know in the comments about a time when you had to fake it till you made it. See you next time. And over time, they may stop trying, not because they stopped caring, but because human beings are wired to eventually accept the level of access they are granted, to stop knocking on doors that do not open. And you are left with relationships that are warm, but not deep, connections that are real, but not whole, a social world full of people who like you, who respect you, who would do anything for you, and who do not really know you. This is the silent architecture of isolation that the mask builds. Not loneliness in the obvious sense, but a subtler or sophisticated kind, the kind that hides inside belonging. Stage 9. The moment of radical understanding. No. We arrive at the part that changes everything. Not a prescription, not a 10-step plan, not a strategy or a toolkit or a morning routine that promises to fix the deep structural patterns of your emotional world. Just a reframe. The mask is not your enemy. The mask is a letter from a younger version of you, a version who was doing the most extraordinary thing: surviving, adapting, protecting the core of who you were in an environment that was not always able to hold it properly. And that younger version deserves not judgment, but recognition. The problem is not that you built the mask. The problem is that you were never told you could eventually put it down, that the environment that made it necessary has, in many ways, changed, that you are no longer a child dependent on the approval of people you could not leave, that you have more resources now, more capacity for repair, more ability to navigate rupture, more resilience than the nervous system that built the mask knew was possible. The mask was the right answer to the wrong question. The question was, how do I stay safe here? And the mask answered brilliantly. But the question has changed. The question now is, how do I actually live? And living, not surviving, but living, requires contact. Real contact. The kind that only happens when two actual people are in the room together, not two performances politely managing each other at a careful distance. Stage 10. What lies beneath is what you will find when you begin, slowly, in safe spaces, with careful people, to take the mask off. You will find that you are far more than the version you have been presenting. You will find that the parts you were most ashamed of, the neediness, the anger, the fear, the vulnerability, the deep craving for genuine connection, are not signs of weakness. They are signs of depth, signs of a rich, complex, finely wired inner world that has been trying to reach the surface for years. You will find that the people who are worth keeping in your life will not run from the real version of you. They will breathe a quiet sigh of relief, because they have been sensing the gap all along, and the arrival of honesty will feel, to them, like a gift. You will find that authenticity, the thing the mask was built to prevent because it once felt dangerous, is actually the only real cure for the exhaustion you have been carrying. That there is a specific and irreplaceable rest that comes from not having to manage your own presentation, from letting the signal reach the surface without the filter, from saying, I am not okay right now, and discovering that the world does not collapse because you said it. You will find that the core, the real, unperformed, unarmored you, is not the liability you were taught to believe it was. It is, in fact, the only version of you that can be genuinely loved. You have been performing for a long time, and the performance has been extraordinary, seamless, convincing, so convincing that sometimes, in the middle of the night, you almost believe it yourself. But underneath it, underneath the composure and the smile and the I am fine and the laugh at the right moment, there is a person, a real one, tired of the performance, hungry for something that reaches deeper, quietly, persistently hoping that someone will ask the right question and mean it, that someone will create enough safety for the honest answer to actually come out. That person is not broken. That person is not too much. That person has simply been waiting. The mask kept you safe. Now, ask yourself what it is keeping you from. Which truth in this video hit you the hardest? The mask you wear with others, or the one you wear with yourself? Drop it below, because the conversation that starts there is the one that actually matters. And if you want to go deeper into the specific psychology of why you chose your particular mask, why you keep choosing certain relationships that demand it, and what it actually takes to begin the process of putting it down, that is exactly where we are going next.